OK, let's turn our attention to Chelsea then, because they've had 7 players in, more than £200 million spent, but that might not be the end of it for Chelsea, which actually in itself is quite remarkable. Tell us more.
This is huge, and this could get even bigger for Chelsea as they once again blow other Premier League sides out of the water when it comes to spending, particularly in this January transfer window. And this is a developing story that we can bring you right now on Sky Sports News, because Chelsea have bid 120 million euros, which is around 106 million pounds, which is the release clause for Enzo Fernandez of Benfica. Now, Vicky, this is quite astronomical figures for a player and would be a British transfer record. We know that Chelsea and Benfica have been in talks for a number of weeks over the player. We know that Chelsea's #1 target in this transfer window has been Enzo Fernandez, the World Cup winner, someone who scored in the World Cup against Mexico, someone who at 22 years old has a huge future in the game. He has been their #1 target. He is the man they've wanted to sign. He is the one that they've been discussing. But all of the discussions over the course of the last few weeks have been centred around Chelsea giving those various players to Benfica and taking Enzo Fernandez back in return. However, the update is that they are willing to pay the release clause. They want the player. There's no other discussions about any other players. They are willing to pay 120 million euros. We know that the player wants to leave Benfica and join Chelsea. It's now just a case of how they structure the payments for this deal. It gets quite complicated because whilst you think on the surface of it, paying the release clause, 120 million euros is quite a simple thing to do. There are various implications with regards to FFP and tax, particularly in Portugal as well. So that makes it a little bit more complicated. Hence why the discussions will now centre around the way they structure the payments of this particular deal. We've seen Chelsea over the course of this window and in the summer paying these huge transfer fees, but over a much longer period of time, and that's where this has now got to be sorted out between the two football clubs. But significant breaking news. Chelsea once again looking to play at the transfer table and play in style for a player that they are absolutely desperate for.
Forgive me, because I have actually lost count, but I think this makes number 8, doesn't it? I'm just looking through. Malo Gusto, I think, was the 7th. So we have João Felix, Badiashile, Benoit Badiashile, David Datro, Fofana, Mudryk, of course, Mikhailo Mudryk, we mustn't forget him, Andre Santos, Noni Madueke. Are they done, do you think? Do you think this would be the one that tops it and stops them? Or, you know, I mean, that's a lot of money and a lot of players for Graham Potter to get his head round.
Yeah, I think you can never say done when it comes to Chelsea in a transfer window. Very different philosophy to what people expected. Of course, you saw big spending under Roman Abramovich for a sustained period of time, and you expected that to slow down and stop when Todd Bowley and his consortium took over the football club. But a part of that deal was to continue to invest in the first team, continue to make Chelsea the best possible team they could, invest into the academy and progress that football club in the same way that he'd been progressing previously. And of course, strengthening that first team is something that they're looking to do. Now, there are all sorts of moving regulations with regards to FFP, and clearly Chelsea believe that if they can sign young players now and build a squad that could be the spine of a Chelsea team for many years to come, their investment will at some stage have to stop. They won't continue to spend this kind of money in every single transfer window. So they're probably looking at it and looking at the business plan saying, right, if we invest this amount of money now, then we won't have to continue to do that. That will be our investment that will go through a 5, 6, 7 year period, which is why you're seeing a lot of these players signing long-term contracts, 6.5-year deals, 7.5-year deals.
And then going back out on loan, some of them have as well. Some of them, you know, they're not just coming into Graham Potter's sort of melting pot, should we say.
No, and then they go and get experience, play first-team football, win titles, win silverware, and then come back to Chelsea as even better players and potentially bigger assets as well, which it's all about. And sometimes they sign players that they don't think will ever really get into their first team, but actually they'll sell for a huge profit later down the line, and it's part of the bigger plan and the business model that Chelsea are now working under. But this is hugely significant. You know, this is a player that they have coveted for some time. He's a World Cup winner as well, so he has that experience having played with Messi, and potentially could be really exciting. You have to remember, he only joined Benfica in July of last summer, so he's not even been at Benfica for a year. They paid roughly £12 million for him, and now already the release clause has been activated, 120 million euros by Chelsea, and they look like they're getting closer to their #1 target in this transfer window.